Greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to Friday's live album ranking, and today we've got Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young in that some sort of order. So all these 6 live albums will feature at least these. 3 of them mostly, and the 4th now and again. So, don't have to say too much about this band. Formed in 1968. Mainstays Crosby, Stills and Nash. Neil Young comes in and out. And as this sort of combination type thing, we have got 6 live albums. So, coming in at number 6 is a live album from 2008, and it's called Déjà Vu Live, and it was recorded at various venues in 2006. So you've got David Crosby vocals, rhythm guitar, Stephen Stills vocals, guitars and keyboards, Graham Nash piano and rhythm, Neil Young vocals, guitars and piano, Ben Keith pedal steel guitar, Spooner Oldham on the keyboards, Rick Rojas on the bass, Chad Cromwell on drums and Tom Bray on the trumpet. So you get the whole of Déjà Vu. That's basically it, really. So you get What Are the Names, Living with War, After the Garden, Military Madness, Let's Impeach the President, Déjà Vu, Shock and War, Families, Wooden Ships, Looking for a Leader, For What It's Worth, throw that in. Living on War, Roger and Out, The Crust of Freedom and Teach Your Children Living with War. It's very bitty. I think it's because it's done at various venues. It doesn't flow very well, which is a shame because it's a good album. As you know, it should be. If they were going to do this, it should have been done at one venue only. Because it just doesn't sound. It's all over the place, to be quite honest. I was quite disappointed in this, but it's a great album, so I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 5.5. Okay, coming in at number 4. Now, this was released in 1971. It's called Four-Way Street, and it's filmed at the various venues. We've got Fillmore East, and the Forum in Los Angeles, and the Auditorium in Chicago. So it's David, Stephen, Graham and Neil, Calvin Samuels on bass and Johnny Barbarata on drums. So you get this little bit of, it sort of fades into Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, which is of course Crosby, Stills and Nash, and it's 33 seconds. I don't know what that's all about. Why don't start at the beginning of the song? But there you go. Okay, the next song is, they actually do a Buffalo Springfield song, and it's On the Way Home from Last Time Around, which is pretty good. Then from Déjà Vu, we get a bit of Teach Your Children. These are all sort of chilled out versions as well. Then we have Triad from the Byrds album Never Before. So they are sort of going through their back catalogue as well. Then we get the Lee Shaw. This is a poetic sort of sea ode, first release. So it's on this album, it's not on anywhere else. It was written during the Déjà Vu period, but didn't make the cut. So it's quite a nice song anyway. Then we have a song from Graham Nash's Songs for Beginners, Chicago. It's a really nice song, and he does it very well live. Then we have a track called Right Between the Eyes, and this is the only album you'll see it on. It's a pretty good song. Then we have a song by Neil Young and Crazy Horse from the album Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere album, Cowgirl in the Sand. Pretty nice version of that. Then we have from After the Gold Rush, one of Neil's songs, Don't Let Me Bring You Down, which is quite good as well. And then we have 49 Bye-Byes and America's Child. Quotes lines from For What It's Worth as well. It's a proper protest thing, that is. And then from the album Stephen Stills, Love the One You're With. And then we go back to some Crosby, Stills and Nash. We have The Pre-Road Downs, pretty cool. Long Time Gone, love that track. Southern Man from the self-titled Stephen Stills album's pretty good as well on here. Then we get Ohio, which is a single from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, I think from 1970. Carry On from Déjà Vu. And then they do Find the Cost of Freedom, which is released, was the B-side of Ohio. That was the last one. I think this is a really good album. It's got lots of acoustic songs on here from every part of the Four's careers, really. It's not a bad album, actually. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 4. This was released in 1983 and it's called Allies, and it's, where is it recorded? It's recorded all over the place. This was at the time before David went to prison. We won't go into that. So it's got David Crosby on here, Stephen Stills, Graham Nash. Additionals on here are Danny Korchmar on the guitars, Michael Sturgis on electric guitar, James Newton Howard on keyboards. We've got Mike Finnegan did some extra vocals, Craig Dorge keyboards, George Perry on the bass, Joe Vitale on the drums, and also a bit of Jeff Porcaro's doing some drumming as well. Lots of people play on here. So the first track, there's some studio tracks on here as well. So the first track is a new studio track called War Games. It's not a bad little rocker, actually. It's got some of that cheesy 80s keyboard in the middle, but it's a great song written by Stephen Stills. Then we have another studio track, Raise a Voice. I quite like this. It's got that classic sounding Crosby, Stills and Nash thing. Nice harmonies, bit Nashville-y. There's nothing wrong with that. Solid track. Then we go into the live stuff. So you get Turn Your Back on Love, which is off the Daylight Again album. So it's some of the modern stuff. Really good. Then we have Barrel of Pain, which is a Graham Nash song from the Earth and Sky album. From the Earth and Sky album, I think he did with David Crosby's on there. Then Shadow Captain from the Crosby, Stills and Nash album. That's pretty good. Dark Star, which is from the CSN album. Then they do a lovely version of the Beatles' Blackbird. And then we have a Joni Mitchell song who did some stuff with them. He played A Real Good Free from the Ladies of Canyon album. Lovely track that is. And then we got Wasted on the Way, which is from the Daylight Again, and this one ends up with a rendition of the Buffalo Sprinkler song, For What It's Worth. The studio tracks are pretty good, but the rest of it's a bit mishmash put together. But though it's different sort of sounds in the recording places, it's still a nice listen, actually. So I'm going to give that one an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 3. Now this was recorded in 2002 and it's just called CSN 2012, and recordings from done on a tour in 2012, and it's David Crosby, Stephen Stills, Graham Nash. We've got Shane Fontaine on guitars, James Raymond on keyboards, Todd Cadwell on the organ, Kevin McCormick bass, and Steve Slow on the drums. So they start off with a couple of sort of songs put together. For the first one's Carry On from Déjà Vu, and the second one, Questions, comes from The Last Time Alone. They repurposed it for this, and it sounds pretty good. Then we have a great version of one of my favourite tracks by these three. Marrakesh Express from the Crosby, Stills and Nash. Great version of that. And then they do Long Time Gone from the same album. And then we've got from Graham Nash's solo debut album, Songs of the Beginning, we've got Military Madness, which is a great song. Southern Cross, which is from the Daylight Again album. One of the modern tracks, but it's a really good song. I like that track. Then we got Lay Me Down. It's the opening track of Crosby and Nash's double album, their final studio collaboration. Really nice song. Almost Gone. Now this is written by Graham Nash and James Rolmond, and it was a single. It's really nice. It's subtitled The Ballad of Bradley Manning. Wasted on the Way from Daylight Again, another really good. And then we get a track off David Crosby's album Cross, Radio, which is a fine track. Then we have Bluebird, which was a single from Buffalo Springfield. Bit of Déjà Vu. Wooden Ships from the Crosby, Still and Nash. I'll stay with that album for a bit of Hopelessly Hoping. Love that. Then we have In Your Name. Now this is a track that Graham Nash wrote for this tour, apparently. It's quite a stirring, spiritual song. Really nice. Girl from the North Country, which of course is a Bob Dylan track off the freewheeling Bob Dylan. And then we get a Stephen Stills song off his album Stills, As I Come of Age. Love that track. Guinevere off Crosby, Still and Nash. And then we got Johnny Green's Garden from 1972, Mananas. And then we got So Begins the Task, again from the Mananas album. Cathedral from C.S.N, sorry. And then Our House from Déjà Vu. I love that track. And then we got Love the One You're With from the Stephen Stills album. For What It's Worth, we always get a bit of that. Tell You the Children for Déjà Vu. And the complete Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Pretty decent album. I think this has got character. It's got some great songs on here, so I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, coming in at number 2. Now this was released in 2024, but it was recorded at the Fillmore East in 1969. So it's Graham on guitar, organ and piano. Neil Young's on this one, on vocals and guitar. Stephen Stills, David Crosby as well. Greg Reeves on bass and Dallas Taylor on the drums. And it's an acoustic set. And so these are all just chill out sort of tracks. So it opens up with the full Judy Blue Eyes. That's lovely. It's one of the best versions I've heard of that. Then they do the Beatles' Blackbird. Then 2 songs from the Crosby, Still and Nash album. First one is Helplessly Hoping, and then Guinevere. And then they do Lady of the Island from the same album. Go Back Home, which is a track off Stephen Stills' album from 1970. On the Way Home from Last Time Around, which is nice. 4+20 from Déjà Vu. Our House from Déjà Vu, very nice. I've Loved Her So Long from Neil Young. That doesn't get many outings. You Don't Have to Cry from the Crosby, Still and Nash. So that's the acoustic set. Then we have what I call the electric set. So the electric set opens up with Long Time Gone. Crosby, Stills and Nash, followed by Wooden Ships. Bluebird Revisited, which is on Stephen Stills 2. Sea of Madness, which is a song that was released on the Four-Way Street. And so again, it's one of them from the Déjà Vu sessions that didn't make it onto the album, but has found a home on their live performances, which is pretty good, really, isn't it? That, you know, there's a song that you didn't get on the album, so you go and play it live. Down by the River, which is from Everyone That This Is Nowhere, brilliant. And the last track is Find the Cost of Freedom, which was that B-side from Ohio. Good album. I love the acoustics on here. I prefer them to the electric ones, actually. but it's still a very, very good album. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.7. But my favourite live album from the sort of, the quartet or whatever, and that's CSNY. It's 1974, and it consists of stuff recorded during the summer tour of 1974. So on here you've got David Crosby, Stephen Stills, Graham Nash, Neil Young. Then you've got Tim Drummond on bass, Russ Kunkel on drums, Joe Layla on percussion. So this opens up with a track off Stephen Stills' self-titled album, Love the One You're With. Love that song. That's probably the best live version. Then Wooden Ships, of course, written by David Crosby and Paul Cantor from Jefferson Airplane. And they've recorded it, and it's off the Crosby, Stills and Nash album, of course. In Immigration Man from Graham Nash and David Crosby. Great song. Great to see that live. Helpless from the Déjà Vu. Then Carry Me, which is from David Crosby's Wind on the Water. Johnny's Garden from Stephen Stills' Manassas album. And then Traces, which is a Neil Young track that's never been on anything, so it gets put on a live album, which I like. Grave Concern from Graham Nash's Wild Tales. On the Beach from Neil Young, of course. Black Queen from the Stephen Stills. Almost Cut My Hair, one of my favourite tracks by the four of them from Déjà Vu. Change Partners from the Stephen Stills. And then they do The Lee Shaw, which was originally on Four-Way Street, another live album, of course. Only You Can Break Your Heart after the Gold Rush song. Brilliant. Our House and Déjà Vu. Field Worker, the Wind on the Water album from Graham Nash. Guinevere from Crosby, Stills and Nash. Time After Time, Whistling Down the Wire, which is a David Crosby solo album. Prison Song from Graham Nash's Wild Tales. Then we have Long May You Run, which is the 76 album. Then we have this Goodbye Dick, which is an previous released Neil Young track. Mellow My Nine from Neil Young's Tonight's the Night. Old Man from Harvest, what a version of that is. Word Game from Stephen Stills 2. Myth of Sisyphus, Stills in from 75. Blackbird. And then they do a couple of tracks that's never been released. Neil Young's songs, Love Art Blues and Orion Sunrise. Teach Your Children from Déjà Vu. The full rendition of Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, which is fantastic, probably the best one. Déjà Vu itself, wonderful track. My Angel from Stills in 1975. Pre-Road Downs, Crosby, Stills and Nash. Don't Be Denied. Times Fade Away, which is a live album by Neil Young. That's the only place you'll find that. Revolution Blues from On the Beach, cracking song. Military Madness, Songs for Beginners, the Graham Nash song. Long Time Gone from the debut album. Pushed Over the End, another Neil Young song that he pumps out on live things. And Chicago, Graham Nash song for beginners. And Ohio, a single. Considering what was going on behind the scenes with their fractured relationships, how do they put a great album out like this? It's a brilliant album all the way through. It's got a nice sound, the mix is right, it's got some of the most defining versions of these songs from all their careers. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, coming up next is the new album review for Alice Cooper, the band, not Alice Cooper solo, the band is called The Revenge of Alice Cooper. Bye.